My Amiel wore white to my wedding and destroyed my dress, but karma had other plans. I never thought I'd be the bride posting one of those stories. You know the ones, where the mother-in-law shows up to the wedding in white and causes a scene that gets retold at every family gathering for the next decade. But here I am, 3 months after what should have been the happiest day of my life, still processing what happened and dealing with the aftermath that somehow keeps getting worse. Let me start from the beginning, because understanding my relationship with my now mother-in-law, Patricia, is crucial to understanding how spectacularly everything fell apart. I met my husband, James, 4 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was kind, funny, genuinely thoughtful, and we clicked immediately. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. Within a year, we'd moved in together. Everything was perfect, except for one increasingly obvious problem: his mother. Patricia is what I generously call traditional. Less generously, she's a control freak who believes her son can do no wrong and that any woman in his life is automatically a threat to their special bond. Yes, she actually used those words. Multiple times. From the moment James introduced us, Patricia made it clear I wasn't good enough. I'm a high school art teacher, apparently not prestigious enough. I come from a middle-class family, not wealthy enough. I have close male friends from college, not appropriate enough. I'm not Catholic like their family, not religious enough. The list went on and on. James, to his credit, defended me every single time. But there's only so much you can do when someone is determined to dislike you. Patricia was a master of backhanded compliments and passive-aggressive comments that always had just enough plausible deniability that calling her out made me look like the crazy one. "Oh, you're wearing that to church? How confident of you." James mentioned you don't know how to make his favorite dish. Don't worry, some women just aren't natural cooks. It's so nice that you're not concerned about your weight like other brides. Very liberated. For 3 years, I endured this. I tried everything, killing her with kindness, setting boundaries, having direct conversations, even suggesting family therapy that went over like a lead balloon. Nothing worked. Patricia was determined to maintain her position as the #1 woman in James's life, and I was the interloper who needed to be put in my place. But I loved James. And James loved me. So when he proposed on a beach at sunset 2 years into our relationship, I said yes without hesitation, even knowing what it would mean for my future dealings with Patricia. The engagement period. If I thought Patricia was difficult before, she became absolutely unbearable once we got engaged. Suddenly, everything about our wedding became her business. She had opinions about the venue, too modern, the color scheme, too bold, the guest list, too small, the menu, too casual, and, most especially, the date. We'd chosen a Saturday in late September. Perfect weather, beautiful fall colors, and significantly cheaper than peak summer season. Patricia insisted we move it to June, because that's when SHE got married, and it's tradition in their family. James finally put his foot down. "Mom, it's our wedding. We're keeping the date we chose." She didn't speak to us for 2 weeks. When she finally broke the silent treatment, it was only to insert herself into every aspect of wedding planning she possibly could. The dress shopping was particularly nightmarish. I'd envisioned a small, intimate appointment with my mom, sister, and 2 best friends. Patricia found out and threw such a fit about being excluded from important family moments that James begged me to invite her to keep the peace. I should have said no. I should have held firm. But I was tired, and I foolishly thought maybe this could be a bonding experience. Maybe if Patricia saw me in wedding dresses, saw how happy James and I were, something would click and she'd finally accept me. I was so naive. The appointment was a disaster from start to finish. Patricia criticized every single dress I tried on. Too revealing. Too plain. Too expensive. Too cheap-looking. She made comments about my body, my posture, my skin. When I finally found the dress, a gorgeous A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt that made me feel like a princess, Patricia's face looked like she'd bitten into a lemon. "Well, if that's what you want," she sniffed. "I suppose it's fine." My mom, bless her, looked ready to throw hands. My sister actually had to physically restrain her. But I was determined not to let Patricia ruin this moment. I bought the dress, and for a few brief, shining minutes in that bridal shop, I felt beautiful and excited about my wedding day. That feeling didn't last long. A week later, Patricia called James in tears, claiming I'd been cruel to her at the dress appointment, that I'd deliberately chosen a dress she hated just to spite her, and that she wasn't sure she could even come to the wedding if I was going to be so hostile to her. It was complete fiction. I'd been nothing but polite, despite her constant criticism. But James was caught in the middle, and I could see how much it was tearing him apart. His mother was sobbing on the phone, telling him he had to choose between us, and I was standing there feeling like a villain for buying a wedding dress. We had a long talk that night. James apologized profusely for his mother's behavior. He promised things would get better after the wedding, that once we were married, Patricia would have to accept our relationship and back off. He suggested couples counseling to help us deal with the family stress, and we started going weekly. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that Patricia would eventually come around, that love would conquer all, that we could find a way to make this work. So, I swallowed my hurt and my anger, and I kept planning our wedding. The next few months were a constant battle. Patricia tried to add 50 extra guests to our list, distant cousins and friends of hers that neither James nor I had ever met. She attempted to override our caterer choice because she knew better. She showed up uninvited to our cake tasting and complained that our flavors were too adventurous. We'd chosen vanilla bean and chocolate raspberry, not exactly exotic. Every single decision became a war. Every boundary we set was met with tears, guilt trips, or accusations that we were shutting her out of her only son's wedding. James's father, Robert, tried to run interference, but even he admitted he'd never seen Patricia this worked up about anything. She'll calm down after the wedding, he assured us. She just needs time to adjust to sharing James. I held on to that hope like a lifeline. Just get through the wedding, I told myself. Just make it to the other side, and everything will be okay. The week leading up to the wedding was chaos. My parents arrived from out of state. James's extended family descended on the city. We had the rehearsal dinner, final fittings, vendor confirmations, and about 1 million last-minute details to handle. Patricia was in full mother-of-the-groom mode, which meant she was everywhere, all the time, with opinions about everything. She'd chosen a lovely deep purple dress for the wedding. I'd seen pictures, and it was actually perfect. Elegant, appropriate, and she looked beautiful in it. At the rehearsal dinner, she made a speech that had me tearing up despite our rocky history. She talked about James as a little boy, about watching him grow into a man, and about how she'd prayed he'd find someone who loved him as much as she did. For a moment, one beautiful, shining moment, I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Maybe she was finally accepting me into the family. "I can see how happy you make my son," she said, looking directly at me with what seemed like genuine warmth. "Welcome to the family, Sarah." I actually cried. I hugged her. I thought we'd finally made peace. I should have known better. The wedding day. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear, perfect weather, not a cloud in the sky. I woke up at 6 a.m., surrounded by my bridesmaids in our hotel suite, bubbling with excitement and nerves. This was it. This was finally happening. My mom had tears in her eyes as she helped me into my dress. My sister kept taking pictures and videos of everything. My best friend made sure I ate something and stayed hydrated. It was perfect. I felt beautiful, loved, and so ready to marry the man of my dreams. The ceremony was at 3 p.m. in a beautiful garden venue, with the reception to follow in their elegant ballroom. We'd rented out the entire property for the weekend, and it was worth every penny. Everything was decorated exactly how I'd envisioned. Autumn flowers in burgundy and gold, twinkling lights everywhere, and a beautiful arbor where James and I would exchange our vows. I arrived at the venue at 1 p.m. for final preparations and photos. That's when I got the first text from my sister, who was already there setting up our guestbook table. Is Patricia wearing white?" My stomach dropped. I immediately called her. "What do you mean white? She has a purple dress." I've seen pictures. Sarah, I'm looking at her right now. It's definitely white. Like, bridal white. With lace. I think she changed dresses. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut.
No, she wouldn't.
She couldn't. Even Patricia wouldn't be that blatant, that deliberately cruel. Right? Maybe a champagne? I suggested desperately. Or ivory. Sometimes it looks different in different lighting. Sarah, my sister said quietly. It's white. Like wedding dress white. Everyone's noticing. I hung up and immediately tried calling James, but he didn't answer. He'd silenced his phone for the pre-ceremony preparations like we'd agreed. I tried calling Patricia directly. Straight to voicemail. My mom saw my face and knew something was wrong. When I told her, she actually said, I'll handle this, and started marching toward the door. I had to physically stop her.
Mom, please.
I don't want to cause a scene. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe. Maybe nothing, my mom said fiercely. That woman wore white to your wedding.
There's no maybe about that.
But what could I do? The ceremony was starting in less than 2 hours. All our guests were arriving. The photographers were already setting up. I couldn't let Patricia ruin this day, even though she was clearly trying to. I took a deep breath and made a decision. We're not going to acknowledge it. We're going to act like nothing is wrong. This is MY Day, and I'm not going to let her take that from me. My bridesmaids rallied around me, all of them furious on my behalf, but trying to stay positive. We did my final hair and makeup touches. I tried to focus on the fact that in a few hours, I'd be married to James. That's what mattered. Not Patricia's desperate attention-seeking. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. It hurt so much. Because wearing white to someone else's wedding isn't just a fashion faux pas, it's a deliberate statement. It's saying, I should be the bride here. I'm the important one. Look at me, not her. And Patricia knew exactly what she was doing. I waited in the bridal suite until the last possible moment, trying to avoid seeing Patricia in her white dress before I had to. My dad came to get me for the processional, took one look at my face, and asked what was wrong. When I told him, his jaw actually clenched. My dad is the most easygoing, gentle man you'll ever meet. In 30 years, I'd seen him genuinely angry maybe 3 times. This made 4. Wanting to accidentally spill something on her? He offered, completely serious. I laughed despite myself. Maybe later. The music started. My bridesmaids began their walk down the aisle. And then it was my turn. My dad squeezed my hand. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Don't let anyone take this moment from you. The doors opened, and I began the walk down the aisle toward James. And despite everything, despite Patricia standing in the front row in a white lace dress that looked uncomfortably bridal, despite the scandalized whispers I could hear from our guests, when I saw James's face light up as he saw me, nothing else mattered. He was crying. His eyes were locked on mine, and his expression was pure love and joy. For those eternal, perfect moments walking toward him, Patricia didn't exist. The white dress didn't exist. It was just me and him and the life we were about to start together. The ceremony itself was beautiful. We'd written our own vows, and James's words made me cry. He promised to always put our marriage first, to be my partner and my best friend, to build a family with me based on love and respect and mutual support. I promised to be his safe harbor, his adventure partner, his home. When we kissed as husband and wife, our guests erupted in cheers. We walked back down the aisle together, married, and for a brief moment, I thought maybe we'd made it through the worst of it. I was wrong. The reception. The cocktail hour after the ceremony was when I finally came face to face with Patricia. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by relatives, and yes, she was absolutely, undeniably wearing a white dress. Not ivory, not champagne, not any color that could be generously interpreted as not white. Pure, bridal white with delicate lace overlay and a sweetheart neckline. She looked like a bride. That was the point. When she saw me approaching, she actually had the audacity to smile and open her arms for a hug. Darling, congratulations. You both looked so beautiful up there. I stepped out of hug range. Patricia, your dress. Oh, this old thing? She smoothed her hands down the pristine white lace. I had to make a last-minute change. The purple dress had a terrible stain that wouldn't come out. Can you believe it? I tried everything. This was the only formal dress I had that still fit. I hope you don't mind. She said it so sweetly, so innocently, with just the right amount of apologetic concern. To anyone listening, it sounded perfectly reasonable. But I could see the glint in her eyes. The tiny, satisfied smile playing at her lips. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was enjoying my reaction. You couldn't find any other dress? I asked, my voice carefully controlled. In any other color? For your son's wedding. Well, I considered wearing the stained one, but I thought that would be worse. I didn't want to embarrass James with a ruined dress in all the photos. She reached out to touch my arm, and I jerked back. Please don't be upset, Sarah. I promise I tried to fix the purple one. These things just happen sometimes. My mom appeared at my side like an avenging angel. Patricia, what an interesting choice. I'm sure people will be talking about this for years. The undercurrent of threat in my mom's voice made Patricia's smile falter slightly, but she recovered quickly. I just want James to have a perfect day. That's all I've ever wanted. James himself arrived then, looking confused.
Mom?
Why did you change dresses? What happened to the purple one? Oh, honey, just a little mishap. Nothing to worry about. She kissed his cheek. Come take a picture with your mother. I watched as the photographer, looking distinctly uncomfortable, took several photos of James and Patricia. In every single one, with her white dress and his black tux, they looked like the bride and groom. It was exactly the image she wanted. James finally seemed to realize what was happening. His face went pale, then red. Mom, you can't, this isn't. Smile for the camera, sweetheart. Patricia chirped, pulling him closer. I walked away. I couldn't watch anymore. My bridesmaids found me in the hallway leading to the bathrooms, and I broke down crying for the first time that day. My beautiful wedding day, the day I'd spent a year planning, the day that was supposed to be about me and James starting our life together, and Patricia had found a way to make it about her. We could spill red wine on her, my maid of honor offered seriously. Or maybe the beet salad from dinner. That stains like crazy. I laughed through my tears. Don't tempt me. I'm not kidding. Say the word, and that dress will be pink before dessert. Part of me was so tempted. But the rational part of my brain knew that causing a scene would just give Patricia more ammunition. She'd play the victim, claim I was cruel to her, and somehow make herself the center of attention even more than she already was. Let's just get through today, I said, wiping my eyes carefully so I wouldn't ruin my makeup. One day. Then I never have to deal with her again. Another thing I was wrong about. Dinner was a blur. I sat at the head table with James, barely tasting the food I'd spent months choosing. Patricia had somehow positioned herself at the table closest to us, in direct line of sight, where she could be prominently visible in every photo taken of us. The speeches were next. My dad gave a beautiful, heartfelt speech about watching me grow up and how proud he was to welcome James into our family. My best friend told embarrassing stories from college that had everyone laughing. James's best man talked about their lifelong friendship and how happy he'd been to watch James fall in love. Then Patricia stood up. We hadn't asked her to give a speech. The plan was for James's father to speak on behalf of his family, which he'd already done beautifully. But Patricia took the microphone anyway, and suddenly all eyes were on her, and her white dress, as she began to speak. I wasn't planning to say anything, she started, and I felt my stomach sink. Nothing good ever followed those words. But as I sit here on this beautiful day, watching my baby boy get married, I just have so many emotions. She dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, and I noticed several guests shooting sympathetic looks her way. They thought she was just an emotional mother. They didn't know this was a performance. James, you've been my whole world since the day you were born. I've devoted my entire life to raising you, to making sure you had everything you needed, to being there for you through every challenge and every triumph. Okay, This was a normal mother of the groom thing to say, if a bit over the top. I tried to relax. And now I have to share you with someone else. My blood ran cold. The way she said someone else, the slight pause, the careful emphasis, made it clear she wasn't thrilled about that fact. Sarah, I want you to know that I see how happy you make my son. And I suppose that's all a mother can really ask for, isn't it? That her son is happy, even if it means she has to step back and make room for his new priority. The digs were so subtle, so carefully worded, that half the guests probably didn't even catch them. But I heard every barb. I could feel James tensing beside me. I just hope you'll remember, Sarah, that James had a family who loved him long before you came along. And we'll still be here long after you. She paused, smiling. Well, we'll always be here for him. It sounded almost like a threat. Or a prophecy. Like she was already imagining our marriage failing, so she could reclaim her position as the most important woman in James's life. So, here's to the happy couple. She raised her glass. May your marriage be filled with love, patience, and understanding. You'll need all three. The guests, clearly uncomfortable but not wanting to be rude, raised their glasses and echoed the toast. Patricia sat down, looking pleased with herself. James leaned over to me. I'm so sorry. I'll talk to her. Later, I whispered back. Please, let's just get through tonight. We made it through the first dance. We made it through the father-daughter dance and the mother-son dance, during which Patricia made sure to position them right in front of the photographer's main camera angle, smiling radiantly in her white dress as she danced with her son. We made it through cake cutting and the bouquet toss. I was starting to think we might actually survive the rest of the reception without further incident. That's when Patricia struck. It happened during the last hour of the reception. The formal events were over, and people were just dancing, drinking, and celebrating. I was in the middle of the dance floor with my college friends, finally starting to relax and have fun despite everything. Patricia approached carrying a glass of what I later learned was cranberry juice, dark, deep red, the exact color that would stain irrevocably. She was smiling, gesturing animatedly as she talked to James's aunt, not appearing to look where she was going. I saw it happening in slow motion. She stumbled just a little, perfectly timed, and the glass tilted toward me. The liquid arced through the air, deep red and deadly, heading straight for my pristine white wedding dress. I tried to jump back, but there was nowhere to go in the crowd. The cranberry juice hit me square in the chest and cascaded down the front of my dress, soaking into the delicate lace, spreading across the fabric in a grotesque burgundy stain. The music seemed to stop. Everyone nearby turned to look. I stood frozen, looking down at my ruined dress, unable to process what had just happened. Oh my God! Patricia's hands flew to her mouth in perfectly performed shock. Sarah. Oh no. I'm so sorry. Someone bumped into me. I lost my balance. Oh, your beautiful dress. She reached out with napkins, dabbing at the stain, which only made it worse by grinding the juice deeper into the fabric. Don't worry. We can fix this. Club soda. Someone get club soda. I stood there as multiple people rushed around trying to help, bringing water and napkins and salt and every home remedy anyone had ever heard of for stain removal. But we all knew, that the dress was ruined. There was no saving it. Patricia kept apologizing, kept insisting it was an accident, kept playing the mortified mother-in-law who'd made a terrible mistake. And, because of her Oscar-worthy performance, everyone believed her. They comforted her, told her these things happen, reassured her that I wouldn't be mad. But I saw it. In the split second before her expression shifted to shock, I saw the satisfaction in her eyes. The tiny flash of triumph. This hadn't been an accident at all. She'd deliberately, meticulously destroyed my wedding dress. James saw it too. I watched his face change as he realized what his mother had done. The horror, the disgust, the rage that flickered across his features before he carefully controlled himself. Mom, he said quietly, his voice tight. We need to talk. Now. But honey, I need to help Sarah. We need to fix her dress. Now. His tone left no room for argument. As James led his mother away, My own mother took charge, whisking me off to the bridal suite to survey the damage. My best friend came with us, along with my sister, and we all just stared at the massive red stain that covered my entire bodice. She did this on purpose, my sister said flatly. That wasn't an accident. I know, I replied numbly. My mom was eerily calm, which meant she was absolutely furious. That woman, she said carefully, has just crossed a line she can never come back from. We tried everything to get the stain out, but it was hopeless. The cranberry juice had set immediately in the delicate lace and silk. My dress, the dress I'd fallen in love with, the dress I'd felt like a princess in, the dress I'd imagined seeing in my wedding photos for the rest of my life, was permanently destroyed. I sat down on the couch and finally let myself cry in earnest. Not delicate tears, but ugly, heaving sobs. My wedding day was ruined. Patricia had won. She'd made the day about her, and now she'd ensured that every single photo of me at my own wedding would feature a giant red stain on my dress. I'm going to kill her, my best friend announced. I'm literally going to kill her. I'll make it look like an accident. Get in line, my sister added darkly. My mom knelt in front of me and took my hands. Baby girl, listen to me. She did not win. She did not ruin your day. Mom, look at my dress. I know. I see it. And yes, it's terrible. But you know what I also see? I see that you married a wonderful man who loves you. I see that you're surrounded by people who love you. And I see a bitter, spiteful woman who's so miserable in her own life that she has to sabotage other people's happiness to feel important. She wiped my tears with her thumbs. Patricia didn't win today. She lost. She lost her son's respect. She lost any chance of a relationship with you. And based on the look on James's face when he took her away, she may have lost her son entirely. Don't give her the satisfaction of thinking she ruined your day. There was a knock on the door, and James came in, looking absolutely destroyed. He took one look at me crying with my ruined dress, and his own eyes filled with tears. Sarah, I am so sorry. I've told my mother to leave. She's being escorted out right now. What? I stood up. James, this is your wedding too. I can't ask you to throw your mother out. You're not asking. I'm telling you what's happening. She deliberately destroyed your dress. At our wedding. She wore white. She gave that speech. And then she ruined your dress. I'm done making excuses for her. I'm done putting her feelings before yours. She's leaving, and honestly, I don't know when or if I'm going to speak to her again. I'd never seen him so angry. Or so determined. My dad agrees, he continued. He's actually the one who suggested we have her removed. He saw what she did too. He's mortified. But... no buts. I'm choosing you, Sarah. I should have shut this down months ago. I'm so sorry I let it get this far. He pulled me into his arms, careful of my dress. I love you. You're my wife now. My wife. And I will not let anyone, not even my mother, treat you this way. The aftermath. The rest of the reception was actually lovely once Patricia was gone. I changed into my going-away outfit early, and we rejoined our guests. Everyone rallied around us, being extra supportive and making sure we knew how much we were loved. My maid of honor grabbed the mic and announced that we were doing an encore first dance because Sarah deserves to dance with her husband in an outfit that hasn't been attacked by beverages. Everyone cheered, and James and I danced again, and it was perfect. We left for our honeymoon in Hawaii the next morning, and for 2 glorious weeks, we didn't think about Patricia or the wedding drama. We swam and hiked and ate amazing food and made love and laughed and enjoyed being newlyweds. But we both knew we'd have to deal with the situation eventually. When we got back, there were 17 voicemails from Patricia. She'd gone through the entire emotional manipulation playbook. Anger. How dare you throw me out of my own son's wedding? Guilt. I'm your mother. After everything I've done for you. Bargaining. Can we just talk about this reasonably? And finally, tearful apologies. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please forgive me. James deleted every message without listening to them all the way through. He did call his father, though, who told us that Patricia had been on a rampage since the wedding. She'd called every family member she could think of, telling her version of the story, a version where she was the victim, cruelly thrown out of her son's wedding over a simple accident. But here's the thing about the modern age. Everyone has smartphones. Everyone takes pictures and videos at weddings. And our guests had captured everything. Someone had filmed Patricia's approach before the spill, and when you watched it closely, you could clearly see her pause, check where I was standing, aim, and throw. It wasn't a stumble. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. That video made the rounds of the family quickly. James's aunt, the same one Patricia had been talking to during the incident, was the one who shared it, absolutely furious that Patricia had used her as cover for the attack. One by one, family members who'd initially believed Patricia's story saw the truth. Patricia's smear campaign fell apart spectacularly. James sent his mother a single text. "I saw the video. Everyone saw the video. You deliberately ruined Sarah's dress at our wedding after wearing white and giving that speech. I need space from you, and I need you to respect that. When I'm ready to talk, I'll reach out. Do not contact us." She tried anyway, of course. Calls, texts, emails showing up at our apartment. We didn't respond. We'd installed a Ring doorbell right after the wedding, so we could see when she came by, and we simply didn't answer the door. After 3 weeks of this, James finally agreed to meet with her, but only in a public place, at a coffee shop with me present. Patricia looked terrible. Her hair wasn't perfectly styled like usual. Her makeup was minimal. She seemed to have aged 5 years in a month. "Thank you for meeting with me," she started, her voice shaking. "This is not a reconciliation," James said firmly. "This is me setting boundaries. You need to hear them." Patricia nodded, looking down at her untouched coffee. "What you did at our wedding was unforgivable. You wore white, knowing exactly what it meant. You gave a passive-aggressive speech that made Sarah uncomfortable at her own reception. And then you deliberately destroyed her wedding dress."
I saw the video, Mom. We all saw it.
"Don't try to deny it was intentional." "I wasn't thinking clearly," Patricia said quietly. "I was just so upset about losing you. You didn't lose me by me getting married. You lost me by choosing to act like this. You pushed me away with your behavior." Tears were streaming down Patricia's face now. Real ones, I thought, though it was hard to tell with her. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I couldn't stand the idea of not being the most important person in your life anymore. Mom, you'll always be my mother. But Sarah is my wife. She's my partner. She's the person I chose to build a life with. You need to accept that and respect that, or you can't be part of our lives." "I want to be part of your lives." She reached across the table toward James, but he pulled back.
"Please."
"I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll apologize to Sarah properly. I don't want your apology," I said, speaking for the first time. "I don't think you're actually sorry. I think you're sorry you got caught, and that there were consequences. But I don't think you regret what you did." Patricia looked at me with something like hatred flickering in her eyes before she controlled her expression. There it was. The real Patricia, under all the tears and apologies. "Here are the boundaries," James continued. 1. You do not contact us unless we contact you first. 2. When and if we do resume contact, you treat Sarah with respect. Not politeness. Not tolerance. Genuine respect. 3. You go to therapy and actually work on why you feel so threatened by your son having a wife. 4. You never, ever mention the wedding again. And 5. If you break any of these boundaries, we go no contact. Permanently. But
Those are the terms, Mom.
take them or leave them. Patricia sat there for a long moment, and I could practically see her calculating. She was trying to figure out if this was a negotiation, if she could find a way to manipulate the situation in her favor. But James's expression was stone, and she finally realized he was serious. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. I agree.
Good.
We'll reach out when we're ready." We left her there in the coffee shop, and I felt, I don't know, not victorious, not relieved, just tired. "Do you think she'll actually respect the boundaries?" I asked James as we drove home. "Honestly,
No.
I think she'll try to find loopholes or emergencies that justify breaking them. But we'll deal with that when it happens. At least we've made our position clear. It's now been 3 months since the wedding and 2 months since that coffee shop meeting. Patricia has mostly respected the boundaries. Mostly. There have been a few. I was just in the neighborhood, drive-bys, and a couple of emergency calls that turned out to be nothing. But the biggest development came last week. James's father filed for divorce. Turns out, the wedding incident was the final straw for him too. He'd spent 35 years watching Patricia's controlling behavior, making excuses for her, trying to keep the peace. But seeing what she did to us, seeing her deliberately sabotage our wedding day, made him realize he couldn't do it anymore. Life's too short, he told us over dinner. I've wasted so much of it walking on eggshells around your mother's emotions. I don't want to waste whatever time I have left. Patricia, predictably, is melting down. She's calling everyone, claiming she's the victim, insisting that James and I destroyed her marriage by turning Robert against her. The family isn't buying it. They all saw the video. They all know the truth. As for my dress, it's hanging in my closet, still stained. My mom suggested I get it professionally cleaned or see if it could be dyed, but honestly, I'm keeping it exactly as it is. Because that dress tells a story. It's a reminder that I married a man who chose me over his mother's manipulation. It's proof that toxic behavior has consequences. And weirdly, it's become a symbol of resilience. I didn't let Patricia ruin my day, even when she literally ruined my dress. The wedding photos. The professional photos came back 2 weeks after we returned from our honeymoon, and I was dreading looking at them. I knew what I'd see. Patricia in white in the family photos, and me in a stained dress for the second half of the reception. But our photographer, Melissa, had absolutely come through for us. She'd clearly recognized what was happening during the wedding. Every single formal family photo that included Patricia had been strategically cropped or angled so that her white dress was minimally visible or partially obscured by other people. Meanwhile, all the photos of James and me were stunning, romantic, joyful, perfect. And the photos from after the dress incident? Melissa had captured something I hadn't even realized in the moment. She'd documented my mom helping me, my bridesmaids rallying around me, James holding me while I cried. Then she'd captured us rejoining the party, dancing with our friends, laughing despite everything. The story the photos told wasn't bride's dress gets ruined. It was bride overcomes adversity with grace and love. There was even one photo, my absolute favorite, taken right after we did our encore first dance. James is dipping me low, we're both laughing, and you can see our friends and family in the background, all of them beaming at us. It's pure joy, pure love. And Patricia is nowhere in sight. That's the photo we had enlarged and framed. That's the one hanging in our living room. As for the photos that did show Patricia in her white dress, we didn't delete them. We created a private album titled The White Elephant in the Room and shared it with close family. It's become a darkly funny inside joke. Whenever someone acts inappropriately at a family event, someone will inevitably whisper, "At least they didn't pull a Patricia." Her name has literally become synonymous with attention-seeking bad behavior in our family. I'd feel bad about it if she hadn't brought it entirely on herself. The therapy revelation. James started going to individual therapy after the wedding, trying to process everything that had happened and understand the dynamics that had allowed his mother's behavior to go unchecked for so long. About a month in, his therapist asked if he'd be willing to invite me to a session to talk about some things he'd been working through. Of course I agreed. That session was eye-opening. James had been unpacking his childhood, and apparently, Patricia's controlling behavior and emotional manipulation went back decades. He talked about how she'd sabotaged previous relationships, how she'd made him feel guilty for normal developmental milestones like going away to college, how she'd positioned herself as the only person who truly understood him. It's called emotional incest, his therapist explained. When a parent treats their child as a surrogate spouse or emotional partner. It's not sexual, but it's still inappropriate and damaging. Hearing it labeled like that, hearing it named as a form of abuse was shocking. But it also explained so much. Patricia hadn't just been an overbearing mother-in-law. She'd been grooming James his entire life to prioritize her emotional needs above his own or anyone else's. The wedding was just the culmination of years of dysfunction. When she realized she was truly losing her emotional hold on James, she'd lashed out in the most dramatic way possible. The dress incident wasn't really about the dress, the therapist said. It was about marking you, Sarah. She was symbolically saying, you can marry him, but I can still damage what's yours. I still have power here. It was twisted and sad and infuriating all at once. But it also helped me understand that Patricia's behavior was never about me personally. I could have been literally anyone and she would have acted the same way. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough for James. It was that no one would have been good enough because Patricia didn't want to share him with anyone. Understanding that helped me let go of some of the hurt. Not all of it. What she did was still incredibly cruel and violated what should have been a sacred, joyful day. But at least I could stop wondering what I'd done wrong or how I could have prevented it. There was nothing I could have done. This was always going to happen in some form. 6 weeks after our boundary-setting coffee shop meeting, Patricia apparently decided she'd served her time, and it was time for us to forgive and forget. She showed up at our apartment on a Saturday morning with baked goods and a carefully rehearsed speech about how she'd been going to therapy. We later confirmed this was a lie and had done the work to understand her mistakes. We didn't let her in. Mom, we said we'd reach out when we were ready, James said through the doorbell camera. We're not ready. But I've changed. I've been working so hard on myself. Don't I get credit for trying? It's been 6 weeks. Real change takes longer than that. And the fact that you're here, violating the boundaries we explicitly set, shows me you haven't changed at all. You can't keep me from my son forever. You're keeping yourself from your son by refusing to respect our boundaries. Go home, Mom. She stood there for another 10 minutes, cycling through anger, tears, and bargaining. We didn't respond. Eventually, she left, but not before leaving the baked goods on our doorstep with a note. For when you come to your senses. We threw the baked goods away. Neither of us trusted that they weren't tampered with, which tells you exactly how far our trust in Patricia had eroded. The next day, she posted on Facebook a long, martyred essay about how she was being kept from her son by a manipulative daughter-in-law and how parental alienation is a real thing and how heartbroken she was. Several family members called her out in the comments, posting the video of her deliberately destroying my dress and reminding her that she'd done this to herself. James's aunt even wrote a detailed comment explaining everything Patricia had done and how she was now playing the victim. Patricia deleted the post within an hour, but not before dozens of people had screenshot it. Her attempt to rally public support had backfired spectacularly. James called his dad afterward. How did you live with this for 35 years? I got very good at ignoring reality, Robert admitted. And I convinced myself it wasn't that bad, that she'd get better, that her good qualities outweighed the bad. I was wrong. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better when you were growing up. That conversation led to James and his dad growing closer than they'd ever been. Robert had moved into his own apartment and was dating for the first time in decades. He seemed lighter, happier, younger. I should have done this years ago, he told us. Thank you for helping me see I deserved better. It was bittersweet, sad that it took our wedding disaster to open his eyes, but good that he was finally free. One unexpected positive that came from all this was how close we became with James's extended family. His cousins, aunts, uncles. Most of them had experienced Patricia's manipulation and control in various ways over the years, but had felt powerless to call it out. Seeing James stand up to her, set boundaries, and stick to them gave several of them permission to do the same. His cousin Emily, who'd always been one of Patricia's favorite targets, completely stopped attending family events where Patricia would be present. James's Uncle Mark, who'd had a falling out with Patricia years ago over some perceived slight, reached out to reconnect with James after seeing how we'd handled things. We ended up hosting Thanksgiving at our apartment that year, our first holiday as a married couple. James's dad came, several cousins, my family, and a handful of family friends. Patricia was not invited. She sent a lengthy email the day before about how we were destroying the family and choosing hate over love. James didn't even respond. He just forwarded the email to his therapist with a note. Exhibit Q. The Thanksgiving gathering was wonderful. Relaxed, drama-free, filled with actual warmth instead of the tense performance that Patricia's presence always created. Multiple people commented that it was the most enjoyable family event they'd attended in years. This is what family gatherings are supposed to feel like, Emily said, almost tearfully. I'd forgotten. We toasted to new traditions and fresh starts. And if there was a Patricia-shaped hole in the gathering, no one seemed to miss it. The unexpected ally. In month 3 of our minimal contact with Patricia, we got a surprising phone call from James's maternal grandmother, Helen. She was 91 years old, sharp as a tack, and had always been cordial but distant with me. I need to apologize to you, Sarah, she said without preamble. I knew what my daughter was like, and I said nothing. I should have warned you. I should have prepared you. She went on to explain that Patricia had always been difficult, controlling, jealous, prone to dramatic displays when she didn't get her way. Helen had hoped marriage and motherhood would mellow her, but instead, Patricia had channeled all her intensity into controlling her husband and son. I tried to intervene when James was younger, Helen said. I tried to talk to Patricia about giving him space, about healthy boundaries. She didn't speak to me for 2 years. By the time we reconciled, she'd made it clear that any criticism of her parenting would result in me being cut off from my grandson. So I stayed quiet. I chose access over advocacy, and I was wrong. You were trying to stay in James's life, I said gently. That's understandable. It's cowardly, she corrected. And you paid the price for my cowardice at your wedding. I saw what she did. I saw the dress, I saw the speech, and I saw her ruin your gown. I should have said something then and there. Instead, I stayed silent again. I'm ashamed of myself. This 91-year-old woman was taking more accountability than Patricia had ever demonstrated in her entire life. What can I do to make this right? Helen asked. Tell me and I'll do it. Just be honest if people ask you what happened, I said. Don't let Patricia rewrite history. That's all we need. Consider it done. And Sarah? Welcome to the family. The real family, not the performance Patricia has been directing for years. Helen became one of our staunchest allies. She started calling James weekly, building the relationship they should have had all along. She sent us care packages. She even called Patricia directly and told her she was ashamed of her behavior, a conversation that, according to Helen, ended with Patricia hanging up on her own mother. She'll come around eventually, Helen said. Or she won't. Either way, you two build your life and don't wait for her approval. We'd been planning to wait a few years before trying to have kids, but the wedding drama accelerated that timeline in an unexpected way. Seeing James stand up for our marriage, set firm boundaries, and choose our partnership over his mother's manipulation made me fall in love with him all over again. 4 months after the wedding, I got pregnant. We were surprised but thrilled. This was happening sooner than planned, but we were ready. The question became, do we tell Patricia? James's initial instinct was to wait until the baby was born. She doesn't deserve to know until she's proven she can respect us, he said. If we tell her now, she'll just spend the entire pregnancy trying to take over. Part of me agreed, but another part worried about the precedent we'd be setting. If we keep this from her and she finds out, it'll give her ammunition. She'll claim we're alienating her from her grandchild, that we're punishing the baby by keeping them from their grandmother. We discussed it in therapy with my parents, with trusted friends. Everyone had different opinions. Finally, we made a decision. We'd tell her, but with conditions. We invited Patricia to meet us at a neutral location, the same coffee shop as before. She arrived looking hopeful and nervous. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she started. I've missed you both so much. Mom, we have news, James interrupted. Sarah's pregnant. You're going to be a grandmother. Patricia's face went through a complex series of emotions, shock, joy, calculation, and something else I couldn't quite read. Oh, that's wonderful. When are you due? Do you know if it's a boy or girl? Have you thought about names? I have so many suggestions. Stop. James held up his hand. Before we go any further, you need to hear the conditions. Patricia's face fell. Conditions?
Yes.
If you want to be part of this child's life, you need to follow very specific rules. 1. You respect Sarah as the baby's mother. Her decisions about feeding, sleeping, childcare, everything are final. You can offer advice if asked, but you don't push and you don't guilt trip. 2. You don't undermine us as parents. You don't give the baby things we've said no to. You don't teach them to keep secrets from us. You don't make them feel guilty about not spending enough time with you. I would never. Mom, let me finish. 3. You don't use the baby as a do-over child or an emotional support animal. You don't vent to them about your problems or your feelings about us. 4. You attend family therapy with us before the baby arrives. Real therapy with a licensed professional where you actually work on your behavior. And 5. If you violate any of these rules, you don't get second chances. You're out. Patricia sat in silence for a long moment. I could practically see her trying to find loopholes, ways to argue, angles to manipulate. What if I disagree with how you're parenting? She finally asked. What if I see you doing something I think is harmful? You can express your concern once, respectfully in private, James said. If we don't change course, you drop it. This isn't a negotiation, Mom. These are the terms. And if I don't agree to these conditions, then you don't have a relationship with our child. It's that simple. I could see tears forming in Patricia's eyes, real ones, I thought. The reality was hitting her. She could either change her behavior or lose access to her grandchild. There was no middle ground, no way to manipulate her way around this. This is so harsh, she whispered. I'm your mother.
Yes.
And you wore white to my wedding, gave a passive-aggressive speech, and deliberately destroyed Sarah's dress. You've shown us who you are, Mom. Now we're showing you what the consequences look like. Can I think about it? You have a week, James said. After that, we move forward with or without you. We left her there again, and I felt that same complicated mix of emotions. Part of me hoped she'd rise to the occasion. Part of me knew she probably wouldn't. And part of me was at peace either way, because we had each other, and that's what mattered. The choice. 5 days later, Patricia called. I'll do it. The therapy, the boundaries, all of it. I want to be part of my grandchild's life. We scheduled the first family therapy session for the following week. Our therapist, Dr. Martinez, had experience with family systems and boundary issues, and we'd briefed her thoroughly on the situation. That first session was brutal. Patricia came in defensive, ready to explain why her behavior had been justified, why we were being too harsh, why everyone needed to just move on from the past. Dr. Martinez shut that down immediately. Patricia, you're here because you engaged in deliberately harmful behavior toward your son and daughter-in-law, culminating in sabotaging their wedding. If you're not willing to take full accountability for that, we can't move forward. But you don't understand the full context. I've heard the context from both James and Sarah. I've also heard from James about patterns of controlling behavior throughout his life. What I need to hear from you is accountability. Can you acknowledge that what you did was wrong? Patricia struggled. You could see her wrestling with it, her need to be right versus her desire to have access to her grandchild. Finally, painfully, she said, Yes. What I did was wrong. Be specific. I wore white to their wedding knowing it would upset people. I gave a speech that was inappropriate, and I deliberately spilled juice on Sarah's dress because I was angry and wanted to hurt her. Hearing her say it out loud, admit to the premeditation, was shocking even though we'd known it all along. James's hand found mine and squeezed tight. Why did you want to hurt Sarah? Dr. Martinez asked. Because she was taking James away from me. Was she? Or was James making an adult choice to prioritize his marriage, as he should? Patricia didn't answer. She just stared at her hands, tears streaming down her face. The session continued for another 40 minutes, diving into Patricia's fears about losing relevance, her pattern of controlling the people around her, her difficulty accepting that James was an independent adult. It was uncomfortable and painful and necessary. As we were leaving, Dr. Martinez said, This is going to be a long process. Real change doesn't happen overnight. Patricia, you need to be committed to doing the work, not just performing compliance to get access to your grandchild. I understand, Patricia said quietly. Time would tell if she actually meant it. It's been 6 months since that first therapy session. We've been meeting weekly, sometimes all together, sometimes just Patricia with Dr. Martinez, sometimes just James and me.
Patricia is trying.
I think. She's not perfect. She still occasionally oversteps, still sometimes makes comments that have an edge to them, still struggles with not being in control. But when we call her out, she usually apologizes and corrects course instead of doubling down. She sent me a handwritten apology letter 3 months into therapy. Not a performance, not manipulation, just a genuine expression of remorse for the wedding, for the years of passive-aggressive behavior before that, for not welcoming me into the family the way I deserved. I was so afraid of losing James that I pushed him away, she wrote. I was so focused on what I was losing that I couldn't see what I was gaining. A daughter, an expanded family, the chance to watch my son be happy. I'm sorry I wasted so much time being bitter when I could have been building a relationship with you. If you can ever forgive me, I promise to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I cried reading it. Not because it erased what she'd done, but because it was the first time she'd ever been genuinely vulnerable with me. I'm not ready to fully trust her yet. Maybe I never will be. But I'm willing to cautiously, carefully, allow her back into our lives as long as she continues respecting boundaries and doing the work. Our daughter was born 3 weeks ago. We named her Claire Margaret, Claire after my grandmother, Margaret after James's grandmother Helen, her middle name. Patricia cried when we told her. Happy tears this time. She's visited twice since Claire was born. Both times, she asked before coming, brought only one small gift, and left when we indicated we were tired without guilt-tripping us. She held Claire gently, called her beautiful, and told me I was doing a wonderful job. It felt almost normal. Almost like having a regular mother-in-law who is just excited about her grandchild, not one who is trying to possess and control everyone around her. I'm cautiously optimistic. James is too. We're keeping our boundaries firm, continuing therapy, and watching carefully for any backsliding. But maybe, just maybe, something good came from the wedding disaster after all. Not because Patricia deserved another chance, but because we built a marriage strong enough to weather her worst behavior. We learned to put each other first. We discovered who our real allies were. We developed the skills to set and maintain healthy boundaries. And now we're building a family on that foundation, a family based on mutual respect, clear communication, and genuine love rather than manipulation and control. As for my stained wedding dress, it's still hanging in my closet. But now when I look at it, I don't just see destruction. I see resilience. I see a turning point. I see the day I married my best friend and started building the life we both deserved, despite someone's best efforts to ruin it. Patricia didn't win that day. She lost. But more importantly, James and I won. We won our marriage. We won our independence. We won our future. And that's worth more than any pristine wedding dress could ever be. Update, for those asking, yes, I'm planning to keep the dress. Some people have suggested turning it into a shadow box or art piece. I'm thinking about having the undamaged parts made into a christening gown for Claire. Using something Patricia tried to destroy to create something beautiful and meaningful for the next generation feels like the right kind of poetic justice. And for those wondering if Patricia will see this post, honestly, I don't care anymore. This is my story, my experience, my truth. If it makes her uncomfortable, maybe that's something she needs to sit with. Thanks for all the support, everyone. It really does help to know I'm not crazy for how I reacted to all this.